If a janitor speaks 9 languages and saves the entire company from financial disaster, would you still dare to judge someone by the uniform they wear? On Monday morning, sunlight spilled through the glass walls of the Hallberg and Gray building, spreading softly across the cold marble floor of the grand lobby. The city of Chicago hadn't quite shaken off its morning haze, but inside the company, the pace of the day had already begun to accelerate. Employees swept past one another with the speed of escalators, heels clicking briskly on tile floors, coffee in hand, eyes locked on their phones, ears tethered to the pressure of end-of-quarter deadlines. Amid that blur of movement, Elias Moreau, the young CEO of the firm, chose a different path. Instead of entering through the usual private elevator, he walked up from the garage, guided by the instinct of a man who sensed something was out of rhythm in the culture of his company. It was in that hallway that he suddenly stopped, not because someone called his name, but because of something entirely unexpected. A voice, deep, calm, and clear, echoed near the digital directory. It wasn't English. It was Mandarin, pronounced with such precision that Elias felt, for a moment, like he was standing in a Shanghai subway station. He turned instinctively, tracing the voice. A middle-aged woman in a pale gray janitor's uniform, hair neatly tied up, was speaking with an older Asian gentleman who looked visibly lost. There was nothing remarkable about her appearance, but her tone, composure, and the way she gestured toward the elevators made Elias pause for several long seconds. Before he could approach, a delivery worker walked up with a clipboard. The woman didn't hesitate, switching fluidly to fluent Spanish to give directions. Moments later, a confused Frenchman near the loading dock was met with calm, clear guidance in his native language. 3 situations, 3 languages, 1 person. Elias tightened his grip on his briefcase, watching silently. In over a decade in logistics, he had hired entire teams of interpreters in Singapore, spent hundreds of thousands on translation software at the Tokyo branch. Yet he had never witnessed such natural, effortless, and authentic multilingual fluency. What unsettled him wasn't the language itself, but the person speaking it. That woman, Dana McAllister, had worked here for 13 years, but to Elias, she had always been a fleeting figure at the end of the hallway, mop in hand, never speaking, never appearing in any HR review. He approached and asked gently, "Excuse me, were you just speaking Mandarin?" Dana turned, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, but no fear. "Yes, I was. Do you need assistance, sir?" Elias smiled. "And Spanish? French? You speak those as well?" She nodded, without pride, without hesitation. "Also Portuguese, German, Arabic, Italian, Swahili. I can read Latin too, but I suppose that doesn't count." Elias narrowed his eyes, a moment of silence stretching between 2 strangers, brought together by an unexpected truth. "Could I ask you for a few minutes of your time?" he said. Dinah hesitated slightly. In her eyes flickered the well-worn reflex of someone used to being overlooked. Suspicion, caution, and finally, tired acceptance. "Right now?" she asked. "I'd like to invite you to my office." She didn't ask why. She simply nodded. As the elevator doors closed behind them, the lobby returned to its usual rhythm. No one noticed the woman who had just gone up to the 38th floor. No one realized that in that very moment, an entire recruitment system had failed. And no one yet knew Dana McAllister, the forgotten janitor, was about to clean out the indifference from an entire corporate culture, starting today. The 38th floor was not made for the unseen. Polished wood floors, floor-to-ceiling glass walls, lighting adjusted to match the time of day, and a subtle scent of licorice in the air. This was where million-dollar deals were signed, where global strategies were drawn, and where people like Dana McAllister, if they were ever present, came only after hours to dust the furniture. But today, she walked into that space alongside Elias Moreau, and for a brief moment, every gaze in the room paused, as if they had just witnessed a minor system error that had yet to be updated in the company's culture. No one spoke. No one stopped them. But the assistant seated outside Elias's office, a platinum blonde woman named Miranda, looked Dana over from head to toe with an expression that blended confusion with suspicion. Elias simply nodded at Miranda and opened the door, inviting Dana inside. In the glass-walled office that offered a panoramic view of the winding Chicago River below, Elias gestured toward the chair across from his desk. "Please have a seat," he said, and for the first time, Dana sat before a CEO not with a rag in hand, but with a story waiting to be told. "Dana," Elias began, gentle but direct. "I didn't expect this conversation today, but you gave me a reason to stop. How long have you worked here?" She looked at him, her eyes not quite trusting, but not closed off either. 13 years, she answered. "No one's ever asked me that before." Elias paused for a beat. "And where did you learn all those languages?" Dana sat upright, hands folded on her lap. "I studied linguistics at Columbia University, full scholarship. But my mother was diagnosed with late-stage cancer while I was finishing my graduate thesis. I came home to take care of her. 6 months later, my father died of a stroke. Everything disappeared in a year." Her voice did not tremble. She didn't dramatize her hardship. It came out simply, like she was reading last month's utility bill aloud. "I got pregnant before I could finish my degree. The father disappeared as soon as he found out. No money, no diploma. I took whatever work I could get. Supermarkets, gas stations, until a friend referred me to this night shift job here. The hours were flexible. I could pick my daughter up from school, make dinner, and come back to mop floors starting at 8. Elias said nothing. He looked at the woman in front of him, her faded uniform, calloused wrists, hair pulled high, and eyes that had clearly seen hope vanish too many times. "And you kept learning those languages?" he asked. Dana nodded. "Any way I could. Library books, podcasts, bilingual news apps on my phone. Even if just for a few minutes each day, I kept studying, not for any particular goal, just because it was the only thing that still made me feel like I was still myself." That sentence hit Elias like a stone pressed against his chest. Not out of pity, but from shame. A company with a multimillion-dollar training budget, advanced AI-powered recruitment filters, and hundreds of resumes, screened weekly for so-called potential. And the woman who spoke 9 languages, understood 5 cultures, and possessed extraordinary memory, was buried in the janitorial staff because she lacked one official piece of paper. "Did you ever consider doing something else?" Elias asked, almost reaching for a way to redeem what had been overlooked. Dana gave a faint smile, not sarcastic, just tired. "Try dreaming," she said. "When your kitchen counter is stacked with unpaid bills, your daughter is asking when she'll get a new bike, and the fridge has nothing left but boiled eggs. Can you really afford to dream?" Elias nodded, his gaze no longer just fixed on her, but scanning the machinery he'd spent years managing. Then suddenly, he opened his notebook and wrote something down. "What are you writing?" Dana asked. "An idea," he replied, Or maybe just the beginning of a new direction opening up in my mind. They said nothing more. Only the morning light streaming through the windows glinted off Dana's uniform, now catching the sun like a ribbon of honor no one had ever pinned. Dana stood, asking to return to her shift. Elias didn't stop her. "Thank you for sharing," he said simply. And as the door closed behind her, Elias remained still, hand resting on the desk, eyes fixed on the distant river, knowing full well, this morning, he hadn't just met a janitor who spoke 9 languages. He had met the reflection of a system that needed to be cleaned from the ground up. At 3:45 in the afternoon, while the executive team was buried deep in a chain of financial reports, stretched tight like a drawn bow, and the lower levels buzzed with the hum of vacuums and hurried footsteps preparing for the evening shift, Elias Moreau stood up from his desk with a sudden decision. The morning's conversation lingered in his mind like a scent that wouldn't fade. This time, he wasn't going to wait. He pressed the elevator button down to the service floor. It was a simple action, yet no one in leadership had ever made the journey in that direction. From the heights of power down to the shadows, no one knew exactly where Elias was headed, and that silence created a ripple as he walked past the eyes of maintenance, logistics, and janitorial staff, people who were used to seeing only his back through the company's internal newsletter. Elias found Dana McAllister in a small supply room, stacking clean towels on a metal shelf. She startled slightly at the sight of him, then quickly composed herself. "You came down here again?" she asked softly. Elias smiled. "I have a favor to ask. A meeting with partners from Sao Paulo just got moved up, and our interpreter just called to say she's stuck at Denver Airport." Dana set the towels down and wiped her hands on her apron. "Portuguese?" she asked, and her eyes changed. No longer surprised, but focused. Elias nodded. "Can you help?" Minutes later, they entered conference room 4C. Inside were 4 senior executives from Brazil, legs crossed, scrolling their phones, with the cool demeanor of people who felt their time was being wasted. No one noticed the janitor in uniform walking in behind Elias. No one imagined they were about to witness something completely unexpected. Dana stood upright, gave a gentle smile, and began to speak. A short, clear opening greeting, entirely in native Brazilian Portuguese. The room paused. One of the executives set his phone down, eyes shifting from bored to engaged. Within a few sentences, the entire mood had changed. They began speaking more, faster, in the language they knew best. Dana conveyed every point with clarity, fluidity, and nuance. From financial figures to technical terms to subtle implications, no textbook learner could catch. When one of the visitors burst into laughter at an inside joke, Dana responded with a clever play on words that made the entire table erupt. Elias sat in silence, understanding none of the words, yet fully grasping one thing. She had just bridged people who, moments ago, seemed oceans apart. The meeting ended after just 20 minutes, in a harmony that felt almost surreal. One of the executives turned to Elias, shook his hand, and said in accented but clear English, "She is better than our official interpreter. Where did you find her?" Elias didn't answer right away. He simply looked at Dana, who was now quietly stacking empty glass tumblers onto a tray. "Right here," he replied. On the way back, they didn't speak much. Elias escorted Dana down 2 floors, back to where she had started. A distance of 2 stories, but a gap that had always spanned an entire culture. Just before stepping out of the elevator, Dana paused. "I didn't do anything special today," she said. Elias tilted his head. "You're wrong. Today, You opened a new path for this company. Dana smiled, said nothing more, and walked away. Same stride, same uniform, but no longer the invisible woman he once passed in a shadowed hallway. And the moment the elevator doors closed, Elias returned to his office, opened his laptop, and typed a short email to the senior HR team with one subject line: "We need a new position, urgently." At 9 a.m. the next morning, when the unfamiliar beep of her keycard unlocked the door to the 12th floor, Dana McAllister stepped out of the elevator with a feeling she couldn't quite name. Not fear, but the kind of tension felt by someone about to set foot in a place they had never been allowed to touch. The International Liaison Department was encased in glass, lit by crisp white overhead lights that made everything appear sleek and sterile. Inside, everyone was sharply dressed, moving in silence as if every step had been pre-approved. When Dana entered, no one looked up. She offered a quiet greeting. Only one person gave a tight-lipped nod. No one asked her name. No one offered a handshake. Her desk had been placed at the far end of the corridor, directly across from a small meeting room. On the desk sat a laptop, an internal phone, and a stack of documents. No welcome note, no nameplate, not even an extra chair for a guest. Dana set her bag down, adjusted the collar of her simple blouse, which had replaced her old uniform, and took a seat. Through the glass walls, her new colleagues passed by, glancing not with contempt, but with a clear and unspoken question in their eyes. Who is she, and why is she here? The morning passed in near total silence. No one spoke to her. Every file she received via email was carbon copied to the manager, as if to ensure she didn't get through anything wrong. Just before noon, a tall man in a dark suit approached. "You're Dana, right? I'm Victor, head of this department." He didn't shake her hand, didn't sit down. He simply placed a thick stack of documents on her desk. "Here's a contract with a Dubai client, a legal summary from our Morocco team, and a supplier document from Italy. Can you handle these?" Dana looked up, her voice calm. "I'll need a few hours to review them thoroughly. But yes, I can." Victor said nothing more, gave a short nod, and walked away. She opened the first file. By page 3, she spotted a basic mistranslation, an Arabic term used out of context, shifting the entire meaning of the contract into a disadvantageous clause. In the Moroccan report, she found a French expression with incorrect structure that could lead to a legal dispute if challenged. Dana began making notes on every small error, every misplaced comma, every term slightly bent out of shape. Her hand moved as if it were breathing, steady, fluid, instinctive. That afternoon, Elias stopped by. No announcement. He simply stood at the door to her glass-walled room, gave a polite nod, and asked, "How's the first day?" Dana smiled softly, quiet, but productive. She handed him the marked-up file. "You might want to review the notes I made." Elias flipped through a few pages, frowning. "I thought our legal department had cleared all this." Dana didn't offer judgment. She simply said, "I just did my part." As Elias left, a few heads turned. Not because of his footsteps, but because, for the first time, someone had acknowledged the woman at the end of the hall. Later that day, an email went out. From the CEO's office. "Thank you to Dana McAllister for identifying and correcting key translation errors in our international contracts. We will be conducting a full review of all current translated materials." No extravagant praise, but every word carried weight. Dana sat quietly at her screen, reading the email as if reading a line from a dream. Not because it celebrated her, but because for the first time in over a decade, her name appeared in an internal company message. Not as the woman who mopped the floors, but as the one who corrected the mistakes of an entire system. Late Thursday afternoon, as sunlight stretched long across the corridor on the 17th floor, Dana McAllister received an unexpected notification. She was invited to attend an urgent internal meeting to be held in the Horizon Conference Room, a space typically reserved for high-level strategic board sessions. The message was brief, offering no explanation. When she stepped into the quiet room, where a long oak table was draped with a crisp white cloth, Dana immediately sensed this was not a celebration of achievements. Seated at the head of the table was Eleanor Craig, a long-standing board member known for her cold demeanor and strict scrutiny of every internal promotion. She did not rise, did not smile. She simply gestured toward the chair across from her. "Please, have a seat." Dana nodded and sat silently. In front of her was a neatly printed folder, not a report, but her own personnel file. Eleanor placed a fingertip lightly on the cover, as if resting it on an indictment. "Ms. McAllister," she began, her tone steady and slow. "We've learned that you've just been appointed to a position that did not previously exist. I'm curious, based on what criteria?" Dana looked her in the eye. "I believe Mr. Moreau could best answer that. But if you're asking me, it's because I understand cultures. I speak 9 languages, and I've demonstrated my ability through real work." Eleanor gave a faint smile. "Is that so? I don't see a university degree in your file. No managerial experience. No leadership credentials. You were a janitor here for 13 years, correct?" There was no cruelty in her tone, only the kind of cold logic used by those accustomed to life at the top of the pyramid to defend the structure beneath them. Dana nodded. "Yes, I cleaned floors, and I never missed a shift. I was also never asked whether I knew anything beyond mopping." Eleanor leaned back slightly. "Don't you think you're a risky bet? You could fall at any moment." Dana paused. Then she spoke, slowly, but with unwavering clarity. "I'm not afraid of risk. I've lived by it my whole life. Being a single mother without health insurance is a risk. Learning languages from old textbooks and free podcasts is a risk. But I've never failed because I lacked ability, only because I lacked opportunity." Eleanor was silent. Around the room, others, senior HR officials, legal representatives, began to pay attention. Dana continued. "Do you remember the Internal Code of Ethics, signed in 2009? Page 23, line 7. Career opportunities must be assessed based on actual competence, not on social origin, academic credentials, or current role. You were the one who signed that document." A moment passed. Eleanor looked at Dana, not frowning, not smiling, but with eyes now less sharp. She gently closed the folder, as if closing a door. "I will be watching your performance very closely," she said, "and I expect that if you fall, you will rise on your own, without staining what we've built." Dana offered a faint smile. "I'm not afraid of falling. I'm only afraid of standing still because someone else keeps me down." When the meeting ended, no one said goodbye. But as Dana stepped out of the Horizon conference room, her footsteps no longer belonged to a newcomer. They were the steps of someone who had just driven the first stake into ground that had been frozen far too long. 2 weeks after the meeting with the board, a small sign was quietly replaced outside the main training room at Hallberg and Gray. There was no ribbon-cutting ceremony, no champagne, no speeches. only the soft twist of a technician's screwdriver securing a new metal plaque, brushed steel with bold black letters. Dana McAllister Room, Internal Training and Development. And in that silence, something more important than any ceremony was established. The name of someone once known only by the title Janitor had now become a symbol of a value beyond measure, forgotten potential. That morning, Dana had no idea until a young intern called to her in the hallway. He pointed toward the new nameplate. "Did you know?" Dana looked up, momentarily frozen. Her eyes met the inscription as if she were being called by name for the first time in a 13-year dream. She said nothing, only nodded gently, then stepped forward to place her hand on the surface of the plaque, just to be sure it wasn't a mirage. Later that day, Elias stopped by the office. He brought 2 cups of hot coffee, set one down on her desk, then leaned casually against the filing cabinet. "I just walked past the training room," he said. "Looks like they picked the right name." Dana smiled, not looking up. "You know," she said softly, "I used to think I'd be doing that job for the rest of my life. I wasn't sad about mopping floors. I was sad that no one believed I could do anything else." Elias said nothing at first. Then he handed her a folder. "I'd like you to help build a new training program. Let's call it Voice Inside, for those who've never been seen." Dana took the folder, flipped through a few pages, and her eyes lit up brighter than any ceiling light. "I already started outlining it in my head the day we met with the Brazilian clients," she said. "I think we should have internal language classes, cross-cultural communication training and mentoring, with no rank required." On the day the Voice Inside program launched, Dana didn't give a speech. She simply stood at the back of the room, holding the training manual, quietly watching maintenance workers, administrative staff, and technical support employees listen as an instructor spoke about development opportunities and the right to be heard. She didn't need to speak. Her presence was the most powerful statement. That evening, when she returned to her office to grab her coat, a small envelope sat on her desk. No sender's name, just 3 handwritten words in black ink. "We see you." Inside was a simple sheet of paper, written in neat, slanted script. "I used to think I would be invisible forever. But today, I stood a little taller. Because of you. Thank you." Dana read it again and again, then folded the note carefully and tucked it into her jacket pocket. Not to keep as a souvenir, but as a reminder to herself. What she did today was not just for her. It was a voice for those who had never been asked, "What can you do?" Only told, "Here's what you should do." And as she stepped out of her office, the hallway light cast her shadow across the floor. The same floor her footsteps had quietly marked each night for over a decade. But from now on, no one would see that shadow without knowing. It had led an entire system to relearn how to see people. A system can have cutting-edge technology, gleaming boardrooms, and flawless reports. But if it fails to hear the voices from its lowest levels, then it is dangerously hard of hearing. Dana didn't just change her role. She changed the very definition of value within an organization. That intelligence wears no uniform, and talent does not wait for permission. If you believe that every person deserves to be seen and heard, then like this video, subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories that reach the very core of fairness. And don't forget to leave a comment with the words, "I see you now," to let us know that you too are looking through a wider lens.